They say a kiss can change everything. But few know that there are places on the body where a kiss doesn't just awaken the skin, it awakens the mind. Places where a woman doesn't just feel pleasure, but connection, validation, desire, and power. And if you understand them, not from biology, but from deep psychology, you'll realize something most men never discover. The female body is a language, and every kiss is a word filled with intention. Welcome to invisible power, the channel where the human mind stops being a mystery and becomes your greatest advantage. Here, we don't speak of cheap tricks or empty words. We speak of silent power, the kind that transforms your presence, your energy, your destiny. Now breathe. Close your eyes for a moment and remember, attraction doesn't begin with the body. It begins with the mind. It's an invisible dance between what is said and what is left unsaid, between the gaze that invites and the silence that provokes. Dark psychology teaches us that desire isn't merely chemical. It's strategic, symbolic, and profoundly emotional. Each kiss can be an act of positive manipulation, a way to dominate without forcing, to lead without controlling, to seduce without losing yourself in the surface. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And if that's true, then the body is dyed with the color of our emotions. When a woman allows a kiss, she isn't surrendering control. She's opening a door. But that door doesn't open with strength. It opens with perception. Seneca called it emotional intelligence before its time, the ability to read the invisible, to feel what hasn't yet been spoken. Kisses, like thoughts, can heal or destroy. On the lips, a kiss is desire. On the forehead, protection. On the neck, surrender. But behind each one lies a silent story. A woman doesn't want to be kissed where everyone kisses her. She wants to be kissed where no one has ever understood why they should. Dark psychology reveals that feminine pleasure doesn't reside in the skin, but in the mind interpreting each gesture. True power is not touching the body, but touching the mind that inhabits it. Robert Greene wrote, "The supreme art of power lies in subtlety." And that subtlety is what separates the ordinary man from the conscious one. Because kissing isn't just an action, it's a coded message. A man who understands this becomes an architect of desire. Every kiss he gives leaves a mental imprint, not the trace of fleeting passion, but the mark of meaning. Imagine this. A woman remembers a kiss not because it was intense, but because it was precise, because it arrived exactly when she didn't expect it, yet needed it, because it wasn't invasive but symbolic, because that kiss spoke to her subconscious, not her ego. This is where dark psychology enters, understanding the emotional patterns that govern attraction and connection, understanding what a feminine mind truly seeks when it wants to feel, not merely to be touched. Epictetus taught that it's not what happens to us that disturbs us, but what we believe about what happens. The same applies to pleasure. It's not the kiss that moves her, but what her mind believes the kiss means. If a woman perceives intention, presence, and balanced dominance, her subconscious activates the circuitry of attachment. But if she senses superficial manipulation or selfish desire, every door closes. Dark psychology teaches you to walk that edge, between desire and respect, between attraction and understanding. You don't need to be more attractive. You need to be more aware. Awareness is the most powerful aphrodisiac. The feminine mind seeks signals of presence, not appearance. With every gesture, she unconsciously evaluates if you're truly here, if you truly see her, if you can feel what she feels before she even says it. That invisible reading is what modern science calls emotional synchrony. Without it, no kiss carries real power. Modern philosopher Daniel Kahneman demonstrated that the human mind operates on two systems, the fast and intuitive and the slow and rational. Desire lives in the first, but trust in that lives in the second. So when you kiss, you're not speaking to a woman's logic, but to her instinct. Yet if you fail to give emotional meaning to that experience afterward, her rational mind will discard it as empty. Dark psychology doesn't seek to manipulate, it seeks to awaken awareness of impact. To understand what moves people, what triggers their deepest emotions, and how to direct those forces without destroying them. In this context, kissing isn't a technique, it's a tool of connection. That's why when a woman longs for a kiss, she doesn't seek physical contact. She seeks meaning. Niccolò Machiavelli said, "Men forget the death of their father sooner than the loss of their inheritance." He was speaking of politics, but the essence remains. Human beings remember what provokes deep emotion more than what merely pleases them. A kiss can be pleasure, or it can be memory. If done right, she won't remember the kiss. She'll remember the person who made her feel alive. That's why invisible power exists, to teach you to see what others ignore. To transform every human interaction into a reflection of your inner mastery. This isn't about learning to seduce, it's about learning to understand. Because true understanding creates true attraction. Think of it this way. Every kiss has 3 levels: physical, emotional, and symbolic. The physical activates the senses. The emotional awakens chemistry. The symbolic creates memory. Only when those 3 align does a kiss stop being an act and become a bond. And that bond isn't easily broken. That's why dark psychology teaches that power doesn't lie in kissing more, but in kissing with intention. In knowing the places on the body where a kiss isn't felt on the skin, but in the soul. Because in those places, a woman doesn't just surrender to desire. She surrenders to understanding. And when a woman feels understood, control changes hands. She doesn't belong to you, but her mind remembers you, because true seduction doesn't leave visible marks. It leaves invisible echoes. There's a hidden war taking place every day, not between nations, but between minds. The battlefield isn't made of steel or fire. It's made of emotions, glances, silences, and intentions. And if you don't understand the invisible rules of that war, you're destined to lose before the first move. That's why dark psychology exists, not to harm, but to awaken awareness. To reveal how people influence, seduce, and sometimes destroy, all under the mask of affection. Every toxic person is an artist of perception. They don't attack directly. They rearrange your emotions until you start doubting yourself. Robert B. Cialdini called it the psychology of persuasion, small invisible cues that make you believe their story. A smile timed perfectly, a tone softened at the right moment, a compliment used as a key to your subconscious. They make you trust, they make you relax, and then they rewrite your emotional logic. Dark psychology dissects this process. It shows you how emotional predators operate, not through aggression, but through calibration. They observe, mirror, and adapt. Dale Carnegie wrote that the greatest way to influence someone is to make them feel important. And toxic people have perfected this art into a weapon. They study your needs like a surgeon studies anatomy. Once they find your emotional pulse, they press exactly where it hurts and call it love. But awareness is protection. When you learn to observe the pattern, you detach the emotional hook. The first step is to notice the inconsistency. When their words feel right but your body tenses. When you feel obligated to explain yourself, to justify your emotions, to apologize for existing. Those are not signs of love, they're signs of control disguised as care. The philosopher George E. K. Simon called this covert aggression manipulation wrapped in charm. It's what makes you say, maybe I'm overreacting, when in reality your intuition is screaming. Toxic people feed on your self-doubt, and the more empathy you have, the easier their job becomes. Kevin Dutton, in The Wisdom of Psychopaths, explained that empathy can be turned against you, because your desire to understand others blinds you to their intentions. That's why power begins with awareness. You can't control what you don't see. You can't protect what you refuse to acknowledge. Robert Greene wrote in The 48 Laws of Power that if you're not aware of the game, you're part of it. That's why understanding manipulation isn't cruelty, it's survival. It's the ability to navigate human nature without losing your humanity. Let's go deeper. Every manipulative person follows a silent algorithm. First, they idealize you. They mirror your best qualities, repeat your words, imitate your emotional rhythm. You feel seen, understood, almost complete. Then they subtly withdraw. Suddenly, the validation stops. Your brain, now addicted to their approval, starts chasing it. That's the second phase, intermittent reinforcement. B.F. Skinner proved this principle with pigeons, but humans are no different. When rewards come unpredictably, the mind becomes obsessed with getting them again. Toxic relationships operate on this same principle. You start trying harder to regain the warmth they intentionally removed. And that's the trick. The more you chase it, the more they control you. This is the essence of psychological conditioning, invisible chains made of hope. But dark psychology gives you the keys to break them. You stop reacting. You observe. You learn to control the timing of your attention. You no longer feed their cycle with your emotional energy. That's when they lose power, because manipulation requires participation. If you don't play, they can't win. Now let's bring this closer to desire, because emotional power doesn't just exist in conflict. It also shapes attraction. A woman, like any human being, responds to patterns of presence, security, and stimulation. A man who understands psychology uses those forces ethically. He doesn't manipulate, he guides. He reads emotions like an artist reads shadows, knowing that darkness gives meaning to the light. Imagine this scenario. A woman is speaking, sharing something vulnerable. Most men interrupt, trying to fix or impress, but a man trained in awareness listens completely. He maintains eye contact not as dominance but as acknowledgement. He mirrors her breathing, slightly slower, signaling calm. Without saying a word, he creates psychological safety. At that moment, she feels understood, not seduced. And paradoxically, that understanding awakens attraction far deeper than any superficial move could. Edward Bernays, the father of modern persuasion, said that people don't buy products, they buy emotions. The same applies to connection. A woman doesn't connect with your words. She connects with the emotion they transmit. When you embody certainty, her nervous system mirrors yours. That's emotional entrainment, a concept proven in neuroscience. 2 brains, 1 frequency. But beware, this same mechanism can be used against you. Toxic people master emotional entrainment. They'll match your tone, your values, your hopes, until you trust them completely. Then, once you depend on their approval, they shift the tone. The warmth becomes cold. The empathy turns to sarcasm. And because your brain still seeks the original connection, you stay hooked. That's how psychological dependency is born. Not through control, but through contrast. Dark psychology teaches you to recognize contrast manipulation. When someone gives and withdraws affection to measure your reaction, when they alternate validation and guilt, they're testing how much control they have. Don't fight the game emotionally. Observe it intellectually. Detachment is your weapon. Once you see the pattern, the spell breaks. Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War, "The supreme victory is to subdue the enemy without fighting." In human relationships, the enemy is not a person, it's ignorance. Every time you react blindly, you give away power. Every time you respond consciously, you reclaim it. Now think of this. Manipulation isn't always external. Sometimes it's internal. Your fears, your insecurities, your longing to be loved, these are also forces that control you. The true art of dark psychology is not manipulating others. It's mastering yourself. When you learn to influence your own mind, no one else can. Take this moment as a mirror. Ask yourself, what are the emotional triggers that others could use against me? Validation, rejection, silence, every weakness unacknowledged becomes a doorway for manipulation. But once you name it, it loses its power. Awareness converts vulnerability into strength. Paul Ekman, the expert on micro-expressions, discovered that emotions reveal themselves in less than half a second. If you train your observation, you can detect deceit in a twitch, a blink, a breath. But more importantly, you can detect sincerity. The key isn't suspicion, it's discernment. The more you understand emotional patterns, the less you fall for illusions. Remember this, awareness is not paranoia. Awareness is peace. When you see clearly, no one can shake your center. You don't need to fight to stay in control. You simply are in control. In the world of attraction, as in the world of power, perception rules reality. The person who sees deeper holds the advantage. Toxic individuals manipulate perception to gain control. Conscious individuals understand perception to create harmony. That's the difference between manipulation and mastery. So, when you understand where a woman truly wants to be kissed, when you see the psychological meaning behind her reactions, you stop acting like everyone else. You stop guessing. You start reading. You become fluent in emotional intelligence, and that language transforms everything. Connection, attraction, and even destiny. Knowledge without application is illusion. You can read every book, watch every video, and still remain the same, unless you practice awareness. The art of dark psychology isn't about manipulation. It's about precision. The mastery of emotion through conscious discipline. To apply it ethically means to use understanding as a tool of elevation, not control. Every day, every conversation, every glance is a small psychological test. And your greatest opponent isn't someone else, it's your untrained mind. The first rule of mastery is silence. Not the silence of words, but the silence of reaction. Toxic people, chaotic environments, even moments of attraction and all feed on reaction. When you pause before responding, you reclaim control. That single breath creates distance between impulse and decision. Viktor Frankl called that space the birthplace of freedom. In that moment, you decide who you are, train it daily. When someone provokes you, don't defend yourself. Observe yourself. Notice your heartbeat, your tone, your need to respond. Every time you master a reaction, you strengthen your emotional armor. Power grows quietly inside you. The second rule is observation. Become a student of patterns. Watch how people use tone, rhythm, and eye contact. Notice what they emphasize, what they avoid, when they speed up, when they slow down. As Paul Ekman proved, the truth leaks through micro-expressions, the small involuntary flashes of authenticity. If you see beyond words, you'll never be deceived again. But don't use this to judge, use it to understand. Ethical dark psychology transforms awareness into empathy. You stop reacting to behavior and start seeing the wounds behind it. You recognize manipulation as pain in disguise, and in that recognition you become untouchable. Not because you're cold, but because you're clear. The third rule is intention. Every action must have one. Whether you speak, touch, or remain silent, know why. Robert Greene called this strategic intentionality, acting not from impulse but from purpose. The unaware kiss for pleasure. The aware kiss for meaning. The unaware speak to impress. The aware speak to impact. To apply this, build your rituals. Every morning before the world distracts you, center yourself in 3 dimensions: mind, emotion, and presence. Mind. Observe one thought and question it. Why do I believe this? Is it mine or inherited? Emotion. Name what you feel before you act. Naming emotion weakens its grip. Presence. Choose one act of stillness, slow breathing, a walk in silence, or even looking at your reflection without judgment. These micro-disciplines refine your awareness. Soon your energy changes. People feel it before you speak. Your gaze becomes grounding, not seeking. Your silence carries more authority than most people's words. That's when psychology turns into magnetism. When it comes to attraction, apply these principles with reverence. Don't kiss impulsively, kiss intentionally. Understand the 3 unspoken zones where a woman truly wants to be kissed. Not because they're sensual, but because they're symbolic. 1. The forehead, where safety lives. It tells her, as I see your soul before your body. 2. The hand, where reverence speaks. It says, I admire what you are, not what I want from you. 3. The neck, where vulnerability hides. It whispers, I respect your power, but I know your fragility. These are not tactics, they are psychological codes. Each communicates presence, protection, and polarity. When used consciously, they awaken something ancient, the need to trust, but never forget. Energy without intention becomes manipulation. That's why the most dangerous people are those who use awareness without morality. Niccolo Machiavelli might teach strategy, but Marcus Aurelius reminds us of virtue. The balance between them is wisdom. To live with invisible power means to move through the world without the need to prove it. Your calmness becomes your weapon. Your discipline becomes your seduction. Your perception becomes your advantage. Now let me give you a truth most will never tell you. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you mirror. If your mind is chaotic, you'll meet chaos. If your heart is centered, you'll attract calm. That's why internal mastery is the highest form of external power. When you walk into a room with control over your emotions, people feel it. They can't explain it, but they sense the stability. That's dark charisma, the magnetic field created by inner order. To cultivate it, practice 3 exercises daily. Mirror the void. Stand before a mirror for 1 minute without expression. Observe your eyes until you see emotion arise, then release it. This resets your presence. Verbal precision. Speak less, mean more. Every word should either build clarity or silence. Anything else is waste. Emotional transmutation. When anger arises, breathe and visualize it turning into focus. Energy is neutral. Intention gives it form. If you apply these consistently, your subconscious rewires. Your reactions slow, your perception sharpens, and your energy stabilizes. That's when your presence becomes power. At this point in the journey, you must decide what kind of influence you want to embody. The manipulator who drains, or the master who elevates. One consumes energy, the other generates it. And if this message resonates with you, if you feel that spark of awakening within your chest, this is your moment. Subscribe to Invisible Power, not for entertainment but for transformation. Each video here is a mirror to your hidden potential, a guide to the invisible laws that govern emotion, attraction, and power. Join a community that doesn't follow the crowd, but rewrites the rules, because once you see the invisible, you can never unsee it. Power isn't about control. It's about understanding the game so deeply that you no longer need to play it. When you reach that level, you stop chasing, and everything begins to follow. That's the paradox of invisible strength. When you detach, you attract. When you stop seeking validation, you become the source of it. Every lesson of dark psychology leads here. To silence, to presence, to mastery over yourself. You've learned how manipulation works, how awareness protects, how intention transforms. But now the real question is not how to use power, it's why. Because power without purpose turns to poison. Close your eyes for a moment and breathe. Ask yourself, who are you when no one is watching? What do you seek when everything else fades? Would you still want power if it meant standing alone? The truth is, most people don't want power. They want comfort. They want the illusion of control, the feeling of significance. But real power, the kind that changes lives, demands solitude, discipline, and relentless honesty. It forces you to confront the darkness inside, not to destroy it, but to integrate it. Because the darkness within you is not evil. It's energy, and only awareness can give it shape. Robert Greene once wrote that mastery is not about learning more, but remembering who you are beneath the noise. And that's the final step of this path. The moment you stop pretending, the moment you stop performing for love, for recognition, for belonging, the moment you stand in quiet certainty, that's when everything changes. Think of your journey as a spiral, not a line. You will return to the same lessons, the same wounds, the same faces, but each time you'll see them from a higher level. You'll notice patterns you missed before. You'll understand words that once confused you. And one day you'll realize that every manipulation, every heartbreak, every silence was a teacher disguised as pain. Marcus Aurelius said, "The obstacle is the way." Your challenges weren't designed to break you. They were designed to awaken you. Every person who lied to you taught you how to detect lies. Every person who left you taught you that attachment is not love. Every rejection carved a deeper space within you, a space that can now hold truth. You see, awareness isn't a light that kills the dark. It's a light that allows you to walk through it. And when you walk through darkness without fear, you become something rare, a being who doesn't seek control but emanates it. That's the essence of invisible power, not force. Not noise, stillness, presence, influence without effort. Imagine this: you enter a room and the energy shifts. Not because you demand attention, but because your energy speaks louder than your words. People don't know why, but they listen differently. They feel safe, yet intrigued. That is charisma born from consciousness. The ancient strategist Sun Tzu taught that the best warriors win without fighting. The modern mind must learn the same, to influence without dominance, to lead without demand, to love without fear. This is the new mastery, control through calm. But mastery isn't a destination, it's a daily alignment. It's waking up each morning and choosing awareness over reaction, depth over distraction, purpose over noise. And every time you choose consciously, the invisible becomes visible. You start seeing motives in others, emotions beneath words, desires behind silence. You no longer drown in the surface. You read the current beneath it. Now ask yourself one final question and let it echo. If no one could see you, would you still live with the same integrity? If no one could reward you, would you still act with the same discipline? If no one could love you, would you still love yourself? That is the true measure of inner power, because once you master yourself, the world loses its hold on you. And that freedom, that quiet, unshakable freedom, is the greatest form of seduction. It's what draws others. Not to your appearance, but to your energy. So as this message ends, remember this: don't chase attraction. Create gravity. Don't seek validation. Radiate certainty, don't control others. Command yourself. And one day, when you've lived these truths long enough, you'll understand the secret behind every lesson, every kiss, every silence. That power isn't about having others follow you. It's about becoming someone worth following. Invisible power isn't a channel. It's a state of mind. A space where wisdom replaces noise, where calm becomes magnetism, where knowledge becomes destiny. If you've made it this far, your journey has already begun. So walk with awareness, speak with purpose, and live as if the world were listening to your silence.